All right, everybody. It's the Combatcast. It's the man they call Dave Chevaruni, and we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff that are happening news-wise. I'm definitely not stalling while I look for this video. Our new well, this is not our new intro clip, but we do have an intro clip coming. You know what? Let's do something a little different today. Let's do the countdown. It's only 30 seconds, and because we're going to have a new one coming anyway. And I've seen Joe been using this on his show, so let's try this. All right, Chevaruni, let's talk about what we got coming up.
All right, December 3rd, we're going to be previewing UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Holland. Very good fight. I'm looking forward to that one. Then December 10th, we'll be previewing UFC 282 Prochaska versus Teixeira 2. That card's filling out pretty nice.
Yes.
And then later on in the month, December 17th, UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Strickland.
Yes, and Dober versus Bobby Green. We can talk about that later if you want, but that got added. So super cool.
Yeah. That's a great matchup between those two. That'll be an exciting fight for sure.
So me and Chevy talked about it, doing a little something different here. I did not see this past UFC's fight night. I was in New Jersey watching the AEW event, also throwing up on the side of the road, as I told my man here. It was a long weekend, but a fun one. And people just hear that, they're gonna think like I'm drinking or something. It's like,
no, it ain't like that.
Have a stomach bug. Joe drives rough. It was a bumpy ride. Huh? But so since I didn't see it, we're gonna talk a little bit about this. We'll do a little PFL, and then we'll talk about some UFC news and stuff going around, because I feel like that's stuff that we're gonna sink our teeth into a little bit. So first, why don't you tell me about this fight night card? And let's see if I got any questions for you.
All right, so let's start off with the bad news from this card. Obviously, the main event got pulled in the middle of the card. I texted you to let you know. And
Yes.
that would the Black Beast, after making weight, he had some sort of stomach issues or something. He's been cleared to fight since, so obviously it was nothing super serious, but he was unable to fight on the card, which was already a pretty weak card, so it did put a damper for sure. But we'll start from the beginning. Just the main event, Jack Della Maddalena versus Daniel Roberts. I was super excited for this one. And it went basically exactly how I thought it was going to happen. Jack, super powerful. He kind of just marched Daniel Roberts down. He was landing a lot of the body shots. He got the finish in the first round.
We talked about this before going into this. I remember this about Danny Roberts. One of the things I was worried about was that and I know some of the problem was out of his hands because he's an England fighter and the pandemic, but he has not been very active in the last few years.
Right. And that definitely makes a difference for sure. But I still think even if he had all the time in the world in the cage before this, he would have got run over, unfortunately. No disrespect to him. I just think that Maddalena is on a different level. I would imagine they should give him some sort of high-level wrestler next. Maybe, push him along a little bit on the fast track, because he's looked excellent in all of his fights. All right, let's move on. Andre Fialho versus Muslim Salikov. This was a fight I said was flying under the radar. And it was a pretty good fight, but not exactly the barn burner that I thought we were going to get. Andre landed a few good shots in the first round. He had Muslim's eye all swollen up and busted. But the momentum shifted in the second round. Salikov came out and he was landing at will, basically, on Andre. So
you think landed a bunch himself out?
No, he just was. It was just technically Salikov was just a better fighter on the feet. Andre didn't look quite himself for sure. And he always relies on his chin for sure. and it held up pretty well. But eventually, Salikov landed a wheel kick to his face. Actually, it was a second one. He had landed one earlier that was a glancing blow, kind of. But he landed a wheel kick that stunned Andre, and then Salikov followed up with punches, and the fight got stopped. Andre protested immediately, but I think it was a good stoppage for sure. All right, we're going to keep moving. This was not a super exciting card. So. Chase Sherman versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Yes. This was a fight I was very excited for, and it did not quite live up to what I thought was going to happen. I was saying that whoever got touched first was going to probably go to sleep. Well, I was wrong. This went to decision.
Uh-huh.
And if it went to decision, I thought that Chase Sherman was going to win.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Waldo's
looking great. He is a prospect for sure. I'm still not, sold on him, being the next great thing. He definitely has things to work on. But he has a lot of power, and he puts everything behind all those punches. But I think I was more impressed with Chase Sherman's chin and the way he took those punches for sure throughout the fight. But, bummer of a fight for sure.
Quick question. So he's not, I believe he's going to be 9-0 now. I haven't looked at it, but I remember he had only had like 8 fights going in. And Sherman has a lot more experience. Do you think a guy, like, maybe this is the way to go for him? Like, maybe he'll fight a guy like Andre Arlovski next to. Maybe keep fighting like experienced heavyweights. So by the time he gets there with more dangerous fighters, he'll at least, I don't know,
Yeah, it's not a bad call if you want to bring him up properly. The UFC doesn't always want to do that, but he is exciting for sure. So he could be a fan favorite. He's very powerful. I kind of see him as a more technical Greg Hardy, who also fought at the weekend, but and he won. But that's like boxing.
75 pounds.
Yeah, he was like 94 pounds heavier than the guy he fought. So I don't even want to talk about that fight. But I kind of see Waldo as that. He came from a different sport. He used to be a baseball player. He had like 100-mile-an-hour fastball in baseball. So he has the athleticism that's required for another sport, and he uses that to throw those punches, and they're super powerful. But he definitely has things to work on. I like to see him against somebody that's going to grapple him as well. I think he would struggle for sure with that. All right, we're going to move on to our main event, what ended up being our main event, Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Ion Cutelaba. So another great win for Kennedy, but I really think that Cutelaba could have finished him. There was a point in the fight where he had him hurt and up against the cage, and for some reason he shot for a double leg to take him down, and he did get him down, but he didn't really do any damage, or he didn't progress the fight at all that way. If he had just, he hurt him, and if he had just made a little bit of space and made Kennedy come to him, he could have finished him potentially, but instead he ended up getting hit with a flying knee and finished himself. So another great win for Kennedy. That's a lot of bad losses for Cutelaba, but I'm not sure. He's been in all these fights until he's not. So I don't know if the UFC will cut him. I hope not. He is an exciting fighter. He definitely can get wins against these guys. He just needs to hone that finishing in.
Maybe a change of pace. Will help. Oh, look at this. Can you guys talk Aspen Ladd and Julia Budd? We are going to talk about that.
We're going to get to that. We're going to start the PFL card right now, actually. So let's cruise through some of these earlier fights. Magomed Karamov versus Gleison Tibau. So both these guys were in the UFC before. Gleison, I believe he's 39 years old. He's still winning, including a split decision win over Rory McDonald, which hurts, obviously. But Magomed's the younger and more well-rounded fighter, so I'm going to go with him. I'll say he gets a KO in round 2.
Okay. All right, round 2. I'll let you keep going because I do not know anything about the preliminary cards. I took notes
right.
for the main one. So
All
there's two
right.
more.
UFC vet Jeremy Stevens is fighting Nathan Shoot. Yep. So I'm rooting for Stevens, but it's tough to favor him after the last few years. I think he's lost like 5 out of his last 6 or something like that. And one was a draw because of an eye poke against Yair or something like that. So I'm going to say it's a close fight, but he'll lose by decision.
Man, I saw Stevens, just a real quick little note here for people tuning in. I saw Jeremy Stevens live at UFC 189 fight Dennis Bermudez in a fight that at one point he was losing. He came back with a flying knee. Probably would have been a fight of the night for him on any other card. But of course, that was the infamous Rory McDonald, Robbie Lawler fight, where it was like the fight of the century. And you had Conor McGregor taking a fight with Chad Mendes, who took it on short notice, and Conor had to make a comeback fight too. So amazing!
What a great card that was.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time great cards.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on. Last prelim fight I want to talk about. Can you hear my cat?
Oh, absolutely! I was going to sell it for you.
I can't wait to edit that. Yeah.
Shout out to the cat.
Yeah. So Shaman Moraes is fighting Marlon Moraes. So this is Marlon's first fight back in PFL. Shaman has only lost to the top guys, and he actually has a loss versus Marlon in World Series of Fighting, PFL's predecessor, back in 2015. But recently he has a much better record than Marlon because Marlon's been KO'd in 5 of his last 6 fights. He got a bullshit victory over Jose Aldo, so really he should be 0-6 in his last 6.
Sure. I like Marlon though. I hope he can come back. Yeah.
All super tough guys he fought too. All super tough guys. But I think that those KOs have probably taken a toll on him at this point, and I think he'll get KO'd again. I'll say round 3. So Shaman's gonna get the win in round 3.
Round 3. We got a main card, I believe.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. So we're going to see a lot of title fights here. Omari Akhmedov versus Rob Wilkinson. You got thoughts on this one?
Yeah. Omari is 24-7. He's got 8 KOs, 7 subs, 9 decisions. Well-rounded. And then Wilkinson, 16-2, 8 KOs, 7 subs, 1 decision. Also well-rounded. This should be a good competitive fight. Based on the stuff I've seen, I like Omari Akhmedov, but I'm going to say it's probably by decision.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I really think that Razor Rob, as his nickname is, I really think that he's super dangerous. He had some fights in the UFC as well. Didn't go the best. He got KO'd by Izzy. But I think he's super dangerous. I think at this level, I see him getting the win, actually, over Omari. So I'm going to say it's pretty quick, too, because he likes to finish quickly. So I'll say a round 1 KO.
All right.
We'll move on to Dilano Taylor versus Sadibou Sy.
Sadibou is 12-6. He's got 6 KOs, 6 decisions. Taylor is 10-2, 3 KOs, 2 subs, 5 decisions. I'm not as familiar with both these guys. Just looking at some of the stuff I've seen with both of them, I think I like Dilano. Again, I'm not trying to bore people here, but I feel like it's going to probably be another decision, but we'll see. If you look at Sadibou here, I can't remember how to say his nice name, but he's 6 KOs and 6 decisions. So both these guys like to go to decisions sometimes. So I think you got a decision.
Both these guys also beat Rory. So best case scenario, we get a double KO. They both get knocked out. For me, that probably won't happen, obviously. So I'm going to go with Sadibou by decision. I think, like you said, both guys go to decision. I'm going to say Sadibou is able to withstand any power that Taylor has and wins a close decision. So go on to a fight I'm actually excited for on this card. Stevie Ray versus Olivier Aubin-Mercier. I almost forgot how to say his name. Olivier Aubin-Mercier.
Mercier, yes, the
This
Canadian
is for the
gangster.
lightweight title.
Yes, Canadian gangster, 16-5, former UFC competitor, 1 KO, 8 subs, 7 decisions. He's one of those guys. He's tough to put away. Like, he's definitely gone to decision quite a bit. Stevie Ray, Braveheart, 25-10, 6 KOs, 9 subs, 10 decisions. I consider him a little bit more of an exciting fighter out of the two of these guys. With Mercier a little bit more technical, I would say. But that's not to say Stevie Ray is well-rounded, definitely pull off a submission.
He landed a twister recently on Showtime Pettis.
Yes.
So, always respect for a twister.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I said I think he's a little bit more of the exciting fighter. That being said, sorry, PFL fans, I got another decision, and I'm going to go with Mercier by decision here.
Yeah, so
on this one, I like Mercier, but Stephen Ray is a fun fighter, and I like to see him get the W.
Yeah, he's definitely the more exciting fighter for sure. This is a matchup of two great grapplers. I would say Mercier is more of the wrestler, so he controls his opponents. That's how he gets wins. That's why he has so many decisions. Stephen Ray is more of a jiu-jitsu guy and gets submissions. I mean, he has a lot of decisions too, but he'll go for the finishes more. So they're both grapplers, so I hope we don't get a really shitty striking match. Very possible. I hope not. But I'm also going to go with OAM with a close decision win.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to ESO or ESO. We're looking at this person's fight, Julia Budd versus Aspen Ladd. This is Aspen Ladd PFL debut.
Absolutely. Aspen Ladd 9-3. 6 KOs, 2 subs, 1 decision. Julia Budd, the Jewel, 16-4, 6 KOs, 1 sub, 9 decisions. Julia Budd's been around a little bit longer, plenty of experience. Ladd, to me, is interesting here because I feel like she's more of the prospect. She's an exciting fighter. I like Aspen Ladd a lot, but she's coming in this after leaving the UFC, having some weight issues. And I kind of wonder where her head's at. Whereas Julia Budd is a veteran. She's been through all of this. So, I expect her to be always ready. I want to root for Ladd. I want to pick Ladd. Part of me tells me if Ladd shows up motivated, this is her fight to win, and this is going to be a great showcase for fight for her. But there's a lot of X factors in that. So without knowing everything, I'm going to go with good old reliable Julia Budd. And I'm going to say that, I hate to say it, I don't think this is going to be a decision. I think Bud's going to get the finish. I'm a little concerned about Ladd coming into this fight based off of prior issues with weight. And I just want to see something before I change my mind.
It's funny. We're more opposed on this card than we are on almost any UFC card for sure. So it's just interesting. So I think Julia Budd is amazing. She's a great fighter, but she's 39 years old. So eventually that's going to catch up with her. This fight is at featherweight. So that's, now that being said, Aspen Ladd has still had weight issues when she's moved up. So that doesn't necessarily mean she's guaranteed to make weight, and this is going to be super easy for her. So, but I think Aspen's ready to restart her career. I would assume, being cut from the UFC is a huge wake-up call for her. I'm hoping it is, and I think she's going to get it done. I'll say round 2 TK over Julia Budd, and that sets her career on fire.
I hope you're right. I
hope I am too for the future. Yeah. All right, we'll move on to Ante Delija versus Matheus. Yeah, I'm sorry, Matheus Scheffel. This is a heavyweight title fight.
Yes, Matheus is 12 KOs. He's 17-8, 12 KOs, 5 decisions. Walk in Trouble is 22-5, 10 KOs, 6 subs, 6 decisions. Seems to be a little more well-rounded of the two. I'll go with Mr. Walk in Trouble here, but I will say this is not a fight I'm terribly familiar with PFL heavyweights. So I'll say he gets it done like any good old heavyweight. Round 2 TKO.
So Ante already TKO'd Matheus earlier this year in April, but it's heavyweight, so anyone can get caught.
Of course.
I'll say Matheus gets the TKO this time. I'll say round 3. They kind of feel each other out. He wants to stay safe, not get knocked out again, and he ends up catching him in round 3.
I love that we're going up against each other so much here. All right, let's hear this next card here.
All right. This is my favorite fight on the card for sure.
Let's get here real quick, just because. All right, I have my money on Julia Budd. Julia Budd is stronger, faster, longer, tall. Aspen Ladd, ground and pound, fought against were cans. Interesting. So he's kind of saying
Julia Budd. She's not fighting cans then.
Well, okay, so that's because Julia Budd's fought a lot of people, right? But we will admit Julia Budd has fought probably the more, especially at featherweight, stiffer competition. She's been in there with Cyborg. Yeah. So,
what happened?
I'm very well aware what happened.
Yeah.
But she fought like an all right fight. I don't think she was just laid out, if I remember correctly. I'd have to go back and look. She was laid out.
Survived. Good job.
All right, we'll see what happens.
We'll see. It's very possible. I wouldn't be upset if Julia Budd won. She is also. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I love this guy. That's when I was at 145 when she fought against Dumas. She got dumped on. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think Ladd's got potential. We haven't seen it yet. So we'll have to see.
I'm just banking on her being in a different headspace,
Right. Which is where,
which is
why I was thinking
she was kind of cruising through her career at that point. I'm hoping that being cut from the UFC is a big wake up call. She'll take her shit serious, and realizes that she has this potential and she needs to work for it. So that's what I'm going with.
We'll see.
If that doesn't happen, she continues to, miss weight and all this. She's going to get demolished by lots of people. So
definitely a crossroads fights. But let's continue on. Next one, you were saying Bubba Jenkins.
Brendan Loughnane, my favorite fighter on the roster, versus Bubba Jenkins for the featherweight title.
Bubba Jenkins, I'm a bad man. 19-5, 7 KOs, 3 submissions, 9 decisions. Brendan is 24-4, 12 KOs, 1 sub, so 11 decisions. This is a good fight. I actually really like this fight a lot. I think we're going to agree on this one. I like Brendan here. And I think this one should be super competitive. I'll say he's going to get a submission, and it's going to be late in the fight, round 4.
All right, yeah. So Bubba's a great wrestler with power, but Brendan is the more technical fighter, and he has great takedown defense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Brendan's my favorite fighter on the roster. I'm a stand for him for sure. I see him getting $1 million on this fight. I bet both guys are going to have moments in the fight, but I think that Brendan stuns him in round 3. I'll say he follows up with a flurry and finishes TKO. And then hopefully we see him in the UFC and, maybe next year or whatever. Hopefully he makes it over.
Yeah, I think he's a great competitor. So
yeah. All right, we'll move on to the main event. Kayla Harrison versus Larissa Pacheco.
I don't even want to go through these records. All right, here's the thing. This is the 3rd fight. I believe these guys are fighting now.
Yeah, possibly. I don't remember exactly.
Harrison has beat her soundly a couple times now. This is what's going to happen. Harrison's going to wrestle her. She's going to beat her down, ground and pound her, and she's going to get the finish. Probably by round 3. I think this Larissa woman, she's 18-4. I'm pretty sure 3 of those 4 losses are already to Kayla Harrison. She's just not. But now, maybe this is 4th time's the charm, but we'll see. All right, Kayla Harrison all day. This is a mismatch.
All right, I'm going with Larissa via TKO round 2. I'm hoping that Kayla comes in. I'm a fan of Kayla Harrison, but at a certain point, just got to mix it up and see somebody else win. So I'm hoping that she comes in a little overconfident and gets caught because it's MMA, so anyone can get caught. So why not Larissa? I hope it's her, maybe give her a little competition for next year.
Let's move on to the news with this PFL experiment.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah. All right.
No,
Move
yes.
on to what's around the ring. So, Francis Ngannou versus John Jones is being targeted for UFC 285 in March. With
Yes.
if Francis is still hurt or doesn't sign with the UFC, then they're going to look at Curtis Blades. What do you think about those matchups?
If John Jones, it's very interesting because we don't know what Francis is going to be looking like coming off a knee injury, obviously, and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But assuming Francis is healthy, I'd rather have Blades, right, all day if you're John Jones, because Blades is a tough wrestler, but Jones is strong, and I think he can deal with wrestling. You could argue that might be a weakness for Francis, even though we've seen Francis work on his takedown defense. But I still want to say, like, you don't want to fight somebody with that kind of power. You have to be, like, so sharp. You have to be so ready all the time, constantly. If I'm John, I'm hoping you get Curtis Blades. By the way, which none of these fights are a gimme for John Jones. He's never fought at heavyweight, and you're fighting an elite wrestler who's naturally at this size. Or you're fighting a guy who's one of the scariest knockout artists of all time. Always hard to bet against John Jones, though, when you get right down to it. But if it does come down to it, I think Francis is going to knock out anybody, honestly. The Francis we saw before he went out with an injury, I don't know. He's a bad man.
Right. I mean, he won that fight against Cyril Gane with wrestling. So, yeah. But John Jones, different animal. I would argue that actually Francis is the easier matchup for John Jones because he's going to use his wrestling at heavyweight for sure. And he does get hit, which obviously if he gets hit by Francis, he'll go to sleep just like everyone else. But he has a pretty great fight IQ, as much as I dislike the guy. He has a great fight IQ. He knows what it takes to win rounds, win a fight. And I think he would respect Francis and he would come in ready for that fight and he would take him down. I mean, he took down DC multiple times. He can certainly take down Francis. So I hope we get that fight, though. It's a fight I'm interested in, especially since John Jones could get flatlined, and that's what we all want to see for sure. But with that being said, if he fights Curtis Blades, that's not an easy fight either. Curtis is very powerful. He has great wrestling. So if he gets on top of John with those elbows and his power, he could really hurt him. But it's an interesting matchup for sure. We'll see. It's a little ways off. You know, we could still get the Stipe fight possibly, although the UFC says they're not targeting it. That may be some sort of contract dispute that they're having, since there seems to be something going on between the UFC and Stipe. So I would prefer to see that fight over all of them, honestly, for John's first fight at heavyweight. All right, move on to a different heavyweight. Cain Velasquez is allowed to wrestle for Lucha Libre on December 3rd.
This is wild.
Bail.
Yeah, this is wild. I'm very sympathetic towards Cain and everything happening. I can only imagine. So it's always a tough thing to even talk about. But it's very weird that regardless of how sympathetic I am or feel for this man, that somebody that is up for an attempted murder charge can just go out and do a pro wrestling event. It's very strange. That being said, I wish Cain all the luck, and I hope him and his family get through this, and I'll keep an eye on him as far as his pro wrestling goes.
What kind of reception do you think he's going to get from the fans?
Cheered. He's gonna be fucking totally cheered. One, it's a AAA audience, so it's Lucha Libre. Cain is huge in Mexican heritage. Yeah. And then the fact is, we're not talking about a normal, like, attempted murder charge. We're talking about somebody who's trying to avenge his family.
Right. Arguably justified.
Yeah. This is come on. Like, it's no way. Like, he's going to get cheered. Like, it's crazy.
Right. I'm rooting for him. Let's go, Cain.
Let's go.
All right. Cain. Last piece of news. Fedor has set his retirement fight he set his retirement after this February title fight for the heavyweight title against Ryan Bader in Bellator.
Yeah. Love me some Bellator, but if you want to look at the difference of like heavyweight divisions, like this is it right here. Like we're talking about Ryan Bader, a former light heavyweight contender at UFC, taking on a much older Fedor for the heavyweight title. Now that being said, fun fight, interesting. I feel like Bader has a little too much speed for Fedor at this point. So I think that's going to be the difference. But boy, it'd be kind of fun if Fedor clipped him, huh? Took the title and it went out. Although it is the last fight, so like then Bellator has no heavyweight champion at that point too. So but they've never really had much of a heavyweight division, it seems like. So
it doesn't matter though. Ryan Bader's going to wrestle fuck him. And win the fight anyway. So
yeah, you're probably right. You think? So you got Bader winning too, then?
Yeah, I bet. He might even finish him on the ground at this point. Might. With Fedor's age, in his prime, he'd get mollywopped by Fedor.
Yeah,
but
he might
not now.
He might be too quick, even too, like with hands. Bader might actually be able to catch him. So, but we'll see what happens.
I assume he catches him and then shoots immediately and takes him down. So,
yeah. All right. Well, we got Ryan Bader all day.
Yep. Shout out to Esso for contributing in the comments. Appreciate it for sure. Glad you're watching the show.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate that. I always like some opinions, whether we agree or disagree. So
hell yeah.
All right. So what we got coming up?
All right, December 3rd, we'll be previewing UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Holland. Excellent fight. Yes. December 10th, big UFC card, UFC 282 Prochaska versus Teixeira 2.
Yep.
And then later on in the month, December 17th, UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Strickland.
All right. And then 24th, that's Christmas Eve, right?
Right.
So we might take that one off or
there's not really any fights going on. Working on some on a new intro for you, so maybe we'll have that all set for you end of December or beginning of January. That's what we're shooting.
We'll have a best of at some point too. Maybe that'll be in the beginning of January or something. So but our favorites. All right. Well, that's it for this week's guys. Thanks you for all tuning in.